right. Well, thank you everybody for attending. Sorry for the wait and sorry for the technical difficulties. But we'd like to thank you for joining us for this webinar session presented by Continia today. We're going to be talking about their document capture and expense management add-ons for Microsoft Business Central. Today's webinar will take up about an hour of your time, including some time at the end for a Q&A. Our webinar is being recorded and will be available on demand after the live session. All attendees will receive a follow-up email after the webinar is complete with a link to access said presentation. With that being said, I'd like everybody to submit questions to the question panel during the session or wait until the end for the Q&A. If you do have a question during the middle of the meeting, you can raise your hand and we can see if we can answer that question for you right then and there. Otherwise, please stay muted during the session. Now, I'd like to introduce you to Mark Rhodes, Partner Account Manager at Continia. Take it away, Mark.
Hello, everyone. First and foremost, thank you so much to the Sabre team and especially Caitlin for organizing this and allowing us the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you. I have a tremendous amount of information to go through today, so I hope you are well caffeinated and ready to go. Trying to save some time at the end for questions. If we run out of time, we'll do a follow-up and want to make sure to get your questions answered. And so with that, I do have my contact information in part of the slides here. I want to talk about several things today. Really, financial transformation as a whole, certainly the opportunity to use technology to enable financial transformation, particular opportunities to streamline some of your existing processes, change management. We're going to cover a lot. And so let's go ahead and dive in. And there we go. And so, yes, what we're ultimately focused on today is really change. And when we talk about the opportunity to enable technology to automate our processes, and when we talk about the ability to transform the finance organization and the finance function within an organization, when we're talking about the rapid onslaught of artificial intelligence, all these things, it's about change. And there's a lot of sayings out there about change. I've been dabbling with change management, I like to say, for a couple decades now. It's fascinating to me that it's still one of the top reasons implementations fail. It's still one of the top reasons that organizations struggle to get everybody on the same team. And guess what? It's because we're all human and we all come with a large variety of backgrounds and skills and experiences and perspectives and everything else. So ultimately, we're talking about change and organizational change management. So a lot of sayings around change management. One of my favorites now is, if you don't like change, you're going to like irrelevance a lot less. And it really sums up where we are in the year 2024 and with what's happening with technology, because yeah, guess what? It's not an option anymore. We've been saying that for a long time, but it's serious now. And so I want to unpack just a little bit about what we're talking about with financial transformation. We'll dive into a couple particular things there. So what is financial transformation? I got a couple definitions here. This is a rather lengthy one, but certainly comprehensive. Processes, systems, organizational change, new technologies, training, analysis. This makes me think of the whole triangle that consultants have espoused for decades, right? People, process, technology, or whatever you want to call those elements. That's what we are dealing with. And it's always what we're dealing with, right? The people aspect, processes, and certainly technology. And I'll break that down with some recommendations in a minute. I like this definition a little bit more because it gets to the nub a little bit quicker. Strategic initiatives aimed at re-envisioning a finance function aligned with the overall company strategy, right? We're on the precipice here of a tremendous opportunity for you and the finance team to really reinvent what finance is about and how you drive a strategy and how you drive an organization forward. And we could take a long time just unpacking just that, but I want to keep moving here. My definition out of all is redefining the finance team's role to drive the business forward. That's simply where it is. And here's the thing. Tremendous opportunity, hopefully an exciting opportunity, but I got to tell you, an opportunity that brings a lot of angst to your finance team. I mean, this is going against what a finance team has been for the last 100 years, right? Traditionally, you're looking for a finance team to be very, very detail oriented, very control area oriented, very process oriented. This is the way we do things, and this is the way we have to, because we're going to need to catch and make sure everything is 100% correct, right? And that's what you always valued. Now it's different. One, we can rely on systems to do a lot more of that control and checking and move to much more of a management by exception kind of role. But two, now we have so much more to deal with, right? Finance has suddenly found itself at the central hub of an organization from a viewpoint of the data, from the operations, certainly from a technology standpoint. And so, again, tremendous opportunity, but this involves a humongous shift, an unprecedented shift. I don't think anybody will argue with that for the finance team and what they do and what their outlook is and how they think and so forth. And so there's a lot to adjust here, as you can imagine. If you're on a finance team, hopefully you already have felt this. Well, let's keep going. We'll step through this as we get through this. So, okay, why now? Well, this is kind of what I was getting to already. Again, if you're on a finance team, you have seen unprecedented change already in the past 5 years. Certainly with COVID, right? And that I think sped up a lot of change that was coming anyway. But all of a sudden, we have so many more factors, so many more threats to deal with in terms of risks and fraud, of course. The technology continues to get more complicated. Turnover is at all-time highs, right? And then, of course, the ongoing pressure to continue making sure that you're making money and pricing things correctly and everything else. And so many new or increased pressures. And guess what? The finance team is feeling this, right? They know this, and especially through social media, right? They're reading about AI. They're reading about how the finance function is changing, and a lot of competition out there. So again, unprecedented pressures, and hopefully we can spin this into an opportunity. Now, how do we adjust to this? How do we take advantage? As I'd like to try to spin it into a positive statement. And I want to give you kind of a 3-point plan. So educate, equip, experiment. And really, this comes down to changing the mindset of the team and getting them to embrace change. That's really what's underlying all of this. So just a couple quick suggestions here. And then I'm going to dive into 2 of these areas. Educate. First and foremost, call your team at Sabre and tell them, look, I want to take advantage of everything that's happening with technology. What have you seen? What do you recommend for us, right? I believe fully in the concept of a business partner. They have the experience across multiple organizations. They are on the forefront of technology and the changes that are happening. Have a sit down with them and talk about all this. They want to help you because if you're using technology better and your processes are optimized and so forth, everybody's going to do better. And then guess what? There are no shortage of resources out there for learning more about how to use Business Central and learning, networking with your fellow controllers, for example, and learning about what everybody's doing relative to financial transformation, et cetera, et cetera. Get to a conference, right? There's a couple community conferences a year. One in May, we just had in Denver, dynamic communities. I'm sorry, dynamic user groups. Just did it in May, and then we have dynamic communities coming up in October, which is called the Summit. That'll be in San Antonio. Again, Sabre goes to those conferences, and they can talk to you about that. Experiment. And this is really key. Again, this is a change. You don't necessarily equate experimentation with the finance team normally, but just try some new things, right? The only way you're going to learn is to dabble in this and try some of the new technologies and figure out what makes sense for you. and get better educated in the process. It's not all going to go perfect. A lot of this is very unproven. There is so much discussion around artificial intelligence. And guess what? Only the largest companies have the budgets to really employ AI at a scale level and attack it and hire the right people that already have experience with that and so forth. So you're not going to be perfect with AI and what it does right out of the gate. But the point is, start experimenting. There's a lot of avenues for starting to embed AI and looking for opportunities in terms of making your processes more efficient and doing data analysis for you and things like that. And then what I'm most passionate about, equip your team. Basically, make sure they're positioned to make this change. And we're going to step through in a few minutes some suggestions for that. So relative to that experiment part, new technology, guess what? As you could imagine, that's where Continia can help out. And so I want to show you very, very quickly document capture and expense management today. We also have a solution called Document Output, and that is for sending out documents from Business Central. So if you are already or would like to send out invoices, statements, reminders, confirmations, remittance advices, any of those kind of documents, reports that are generated inside BC, you can hyper-personalize those communications, send those out on a scheduled basis, record all of that inside Business Central. You can also send out basically any data from Business Central. So if you just want to send out emails on a regular basis with customer balances, for example, very easy to pull that email together. We have, I don't know, several dozen templates right out of the box so you can create your own. Very, very unique toolkit for hyper-personalizing those communications. We'll come back to document capture and expense management, of course. We're working on adapting our European banking solution to work here in North America, so stay tuned for more information on that. And later this year, we'll be releasing our sustainability solution as well. Not really a thing quite yet in North America. The largest companies in Europe are already having to report ESG compliance this year. If they do business or have operations in North America, they're going to be calling you for information. So you're going to need to get up to speed very quickly on what that means. And I would suspect some regulations, especially in Canada, will be coming along pretty shortly as well. So a lot changing there, and we're prepared to help you out with it. Two things to note about Continia before we dive into document capture that are very important just in terms of how we work. One is that we work through partners. And so what that means is if you would like to move forward with one of our solutions, you're going to contact your Sabre Limited rep. They're going to help you with scoping and pricing, and they'll do the implementation and provide the support for you. And the reason we do that is because, well, we talk about saving you time and making sure we're being efficient to deal with. And so that we extend that into a lot of different aspects. One is which, no sense in you having to get to know another vendor and us having to spend time to learn your processes, et cetera. If you're already working with Sabre, let them just add this onto your Business Central environment and go from there. It's much more efficient for you. And of course, that means less time and less money. The second point that really sets us apart from a lot of add-on solutions is we are built inside Business Central or embedded inside. And what that means is we're just adding code and adding tables on top of Business Central and just extending its functionality. And so you can do everything as you always do in BC, or you can use the additional functionality that we provide. But guess what? There is no integration. We use BC as our database. And in fact, ours isn't really even an application. You can't run it on its own. So no integration, again, less time, especially up front, building that integration and testing it, and then less time managing it, monitoring it, all those things. Everything's inside BC. I like to cover those 2 points because it really is a foundation in terms of how we approach things. Let me go ahead and talk about document capture very quickly from an overview standpoint, and then we'll run through some examples. But again, document capture, capturing inbound documents. Now, most folks go immediately to capturing invoices and automating that AP process, and it is a fantastic place to start. You're going to see your return on investment day one. You already start saving time day one. So it's a beautiful thing. But what I like so much about it is it's not just for invoices. And so really any inbound documents that you have coming in, you can capture those and save those inside BC. A popular application certainly is either contracts or applications. And you can imagine the inbound documents that you have that you want to save into BC. And the beautiful thing about this, I'll show you, one of the key features of document capture is the search capabilities. So for right from within BC, you can search for any text on any document. We do through the OCR engine, we do a full capture of all of the information on those documents and provide it in a searchable indexed format inside BC. Phenomenal opportunity for contracts, right? You're looking for a specific term and it's on page 100. You're not going to read through that whole contract. That's attached to a record in BC. Just do the search and you're there in 2 seconds. Now for invoices, as you can imagine, document capture alone, over 10,000 implementations around the world. So we have a lot of customer input and continue to make that solution better and better and better. I think our last version, 90% of the new functions and features are based on customer feedback. So it is a very slick, very useful, very configurable solution that will grow with you. And as much as we can continue automating and providing more efficiencies through technology, we're doing that. So with our OCR engine, we continue to upgrade that, have artificial intelligence now detecting what's on the document and interpreting it for you, again, to speed up all of those processes. You'll see some of that as we're going through. Now, what we are looking for here is management by exception, right? Again, processing invoices is not a particularly exciting challenge for the finance team and kind of a pain for everybody else who's involved with the approval process. And what we're trying to do is automate as much as possible and just have a management by exception. So we're really streamlining that process. Key for the finance team, again, it can be as automated as you want, and more beautifully, it doesn't have to be perfect day one. You can start out slower, do the whole crawl, walk, run analogy. Day one, start out, have some invoices processed, don't process all the invoices, and you grow more comfortable. You can increase that automation. You also have full visibility the entire way through. And so at any point on the finance team, you can jump in, change routing, change coding, whatever you need to do, and continue on. Now, we do have a specific checkpoint built in at the end for the finance team. That invoice has to be posted, of course, to create that payable. And so we have that checkpoint built in. So you will see the invoice at some point, again, if you want. Now, real quick, I will show you how approvals work, but basically we're giving you a lot of flexibility with approvals because that's always key for a finance team. What are their options and how does that work? Most folks go with that standard approval. It's going to go to a certain manager up to a certain dollar limit and then to the next person, that kind of thing. But you have a lot of options there. And then in addition, we give you a couple options of where to do those approvals, of course, inside Business Central, but we provide a separate web approval portal. I'll show you this in the demo, but it's also mobile optimized. So one, folks that are reviewing invoices can be focused on just the invoices they need to focus on. And then two, they have all the same capabilities with this web approval portal, yet they only need a team member license. So that's 1/10 of the cost of being able to go into Business Central and do the same actions. With that, I'm going to go ahead and flip over and run through document capture as quick as I can. We're starting out in Business Central here, of course, because that's where everything is housed. And I am going to have to re-log in because it timed out. And I want to take you through the kind of a basic process or a goal for the process. Basically, send in an invoice, let the system interpret that invoice, capture the information, send it out for review and approval, approve it, and then post it. And so let's do that. Of course, the start of that is to send in an email, which is right here. And we have a specific email address I'll explain in a second, but this is sent in, and we've got a couple invoices attached to this email. So I'm basically a vendor. I'm sending in my invoices. All right. Now, within Business Central, what we're doing here is adding some activity queues to your role center. And for the finance team, again, you can track everything that's happening with the entire process all along. And you can basically follow the steps through the activity queues. Comes in, is read by the OCR, it's imported into Business Central. And then depending on your rules that you have set up for these invoices, the next steps are either more automated or less automated. Again, depends on how you have it set up. If you have it set to where the invoice is captured and created automatically inside of Business Central, the next step would be as an open purchase invoice. If you have it set to automatically send out for approval, then you would see it in the purchase invoices for approval queue. And once it's approved, then it becomes a released purchase invoice and it's ready to be posted by the finance team. If you don't have those rules set up and you want to take a little bit more manual approach to it, you want to code it yourself, you want to review it, determine who's going to see it, etc., it will go to our ready to register queue. This is our document journal. So it's just a document. It's not a purchase invoice yet. And that's where the rules are applied and the automation would begin. Now, I'd said there's a lot of options out of the box to automate other business processes. And I'll show you right here, if I go to submit document, you can see all the different document categories we provide out of the box where you can create your own or copy one of these, etc. So really unlimited potential for automating business processes. And so when we talk about the finance team being the hub of the organization, being able to embrace all this, again, you have a great purview in terms of what other documents are we dealing with, what are the records, what are the other business processes that are happening in the organization, and then precisely how could we use this to go automate those other areas. Now, I mentioned we've got these cryptic email addresses here. Don't worry about that. This is the email inbox for the OCR engine. You use whatever email you want to use, vendors at, invoices at, AP at, etc. And there's just a forwarding rule to the OCR email. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and, we refreshed, and you can see we have 2 invoices ready to import. I'm going to go ahead and import those. Normally, these would be on a job queue and happen automatically, not in our demo environment. So I'm going to hit import files, and you're going to see something miraculous happen very quickly here. One of those invoices is from a vendor we haven't processed before. So that's going to go to our ready to register queue because it needs some attention. We don't know what to do with it because we don't have that vendor. The other invoice has the rule set up to where it's captured, and we create that purchase invoice, and then we're going to automatically send it out for approval. And so it's processing all of this in the background automatically. Hopefully that's what you're trying to get to, where again, it's management by exception and you don't have to touch the invoice. And there we go. An approval request has been sent. Let's go ahead and look this up. It's in our purchase invoices for approval queue in my Business Central environment. That will feed the gerbils a little bit better. Here we go. So it's pending approval by Robin, and it's actually attached here. And you can see who's going to be looking at it. Well, it's Robin first, and then it's going to Esther. I happen to know Robin doesn't have enough authority to approve this alone, so it's going to go to a second person. And of course, again, full visibility. Finance team can open these up at any time, see how it was coded, any information. The invoice is actually attached here, so you can reference it very easily. Here's my invoice line, how it was coded. Again, make changes at any point, but you know what? We're going to continue on with our example here. And so it's been sent to Robin for approval. Let's go ahead and approve it. I'm going to open up our web approval portal. And what would have happened in a live environment, Robin would get an email that says, hey, you have an invoice to review and approve. And so in that email would be a link. Robin just clicks that link and they would be automatically signed into this web approval portal and they can review this invoice. Now they could just select it here if they already know what it is and take a decision, or they can open it up and review all the information behind this. That was, again, this was all automatic, right? This is the first time somebody's actually looking at it and touching it, and it's the approver. So how is it coded? What are we doing with it? You can see the invoice, etc. And guess what? They can add comments, they can add attachments, they can even come down here and they can change if they have the right permissions. One of the GL account, or guess what? We have the ability to look at any of the dimensions you have in the system as part of this. Let me go ahead and sign it to one of our departments. Or I could create a new line here. And if I wanted to take this and split it across a couple departments, a couple GL accounts, etc., I could do that too. I can approve it, of course, which I'll do in a second. I can reject it, in which case I would have to specify, did I not click that? There we go. I specify a reason code and I can add a comment. I can forward it and send it on to somebody or a group of people. We have shared approval groups here. And of course, what happens with it at that point. And I actually also, if I'm not here on vacation, I can actually delegate my approval authority to somebody else and to handle while I'm gone. But I am here and I'm going to go ahead and approve this. And there it's gone. Now I can reference the stuff that I worked on, my process purchase approvals. Here's what I just sent on. We're going to go back to Business Central. We're going to open this up. It was approved by Robin, and it will say that down here in the right here in the approval log. And if there are any approval comments, we have a complete secure archive as well with these documents. This still needs to be approved by Esther. So let me go ahead and do that. That has been approved. It is now in the released queue. And again, this is the final checkpoint for finance. And that was it. We've processed an invoice. So I don't know how many clicks that was. That was 8. I don't know. Very few clicks, very few steps. And guess what? The finance team, again, can track everything and what approvals are outstanding and bug people, et cetera, et cetera. Once it's here as a release status, we could make changes if we need to, or move on and post it. I won't take the time to do that. But let's go ahead and look at a couple other features real quick. Pretty well on time here. I'm going to drop into the ready to register queue. So again, these are where the invoices go if they need a little TLC. This may be, it's a brand new vendor, and that's what we have down here. I've not processed, we have Fabricam in the system, but not processed a vendor or an invoice for Fabricam yet. Now, if it's a brand new vendor, this would actually be blank. And so we could have the option to create the vendor. This would be enabled if we needed to do that. Or maybe some of the rules aren't met, or some data hasn't been captured that we're looking for, et cetera, et cetera. So basically, again, we're looking for how to process this information and what's missing. Let's look at this first one from First Up Consultants. And you can see over here, we've got the information captured, and as I click into each field, it'll show me where on the document it got that information. We have a lot of options, not only at the overall rule set, but even in some of the individual fields here. Let me just open up invoice date, and you can see a lot of options for configuration. And where am I looking for this information? Am I applying a formula to it? Am I interpreting it? Do I need to translate it to something else? Again, a lot of options to handle a lot of different situations. This system will grow with you, no doubt about that. So we have the information captured over here, and we can go down here and see if there are any errors or whatnot. We have a couple warnings here. We are doing 50-some error checks behind the scenes, of course, especially for duplicate invoices, et cetera, when we're matching and so forth. And you can specify the severity level and even notify somebody if one of those is triggered. Now it says no account has been configured. So again, fairly new invoice. We don't know how to code this. Let's code it. We're going to go up to template and account for amounts. And here are our options for coding. Of course, we can put it to a GL account or an item, but again, being built inside BC, we have an awful lot of other choices, including an amount distribution code. And this is where if we want to take an invoice and split it across several departments or GL accounts or what have you, either by dollars or by percentage, you're able to do that. You can do that in a fixed amount or enter the amount each time if it's a variable amount. So we're looking pretty good here. Now, before I send this on, I do want to show you the overall rule set that's being applied. We call this a template, and there you have at least one template per vendor. This is all based on a master template. And so what happens here is you set up most of the rules, the basic stuff you're going to collect on each invoice on that master template, and then you can dial in particular for each vendor. What rules do I want to invoke for this vendor? Do I want to match to a PO or do I want to match to a receipt? We have that down here. We have these different options. Do I want to auto perform that match or do it manually? Am I sending it to a specific approval workflow approval workflow? There we go. Or am I reading something off the invoice that indicates where I should send it for review? Do I want to auto approve it within a variance because I'm matching it to a PO, and if we've approved the PO, why look at it again? What do I want to do for the steps? I mentioned up front, or my first step, I can automatically create that invoice, match to an order, so forth. And then do I want to send it for approval or even automatically approve it or even automatically post it if I want? Again, a lot of configuration, a lot of options here. And so start out small, do a little bit, get familiar with the system, and continue to turn up the dial on automation. This says that I've gotten all the information that I want, and I've matched the rules and so forth. So I'm just going to go ahead and register this invoice, and it becomes a purchase invoice. Now, you saw on the rule set there, it was being sent out for approval automatically, and sure enough, it went out to Robin. And so now we're pending approval, but here it is. It's a purchase invoice. And if I need to bring that back, change anything, of course I can. So, of course, we can capture lines and do full and partial matching with POs and receipts. I will not spend the time to go through that, but I will show you one other thing, and that is that document search. And so regardless of where the invoice is at in the process, I can search for anything. So of course I can look, hey, what are all my invoices from First Up Consultants? Well, there you go. And whether they've actually been created as a purchase invoice yet or not, they're showing up here. And again, this is any information on any document. And so let's see, let's just look at, well, there's a bank account number here of 1200. Let's go ahead and blank out our search. And then we're going to go ahead and just search for 1200. And there we go. Every place 1200 shows up will show up and appear in our search results. So I know firsthand how much time can be spent researching those let's be honest, semi-annoying questions that you get from time to time. And guess what? Now you can look like a real rock star and in a couple seconds answer any of those questions. By the way, let's look at this one. Not only can you refer back to the invoice, you can go back to the initial coding. You can even look at the incoming email. I think this is just dynamite that you can see the context from the vendor that sent in that invoice. And there's my original email. With that, that's a brief overview of document capture. Let's go ahead and do a quick time check here. Okay. Let's talk about expense management very quickly. And if you have a solution in place already, you know that expense management is not complicated, right? You capture expenses, review and approve them, post them. You want to keep it simple. For us, the theme with expense management is make it as fast and intuitive as possible so those expenses go away as quickly as possible. That's what we're after. Make expenses go away fast. And so as a non-value added activity, if you're involved in the company expenses, I'm sure you resonate with that. And for us, again, we're giving a very configurable solution to capture the information you want, but make it very intuitive, as you'll see in a minute. So again, complete control and visibility for finance. We've got 3 different ways employees can submit expenses. I'll show you the mobile app and how that works. We have an expense portal similar to that web approval portal, and you can go in and if they're on their laptop, submit expenses that way, or they can email in receipts to start that. Now, this is for individual expenses and for expense reports, and we give you that option. I like the concept of having an individual expenses because guess what? As soon as that expense is incurred, if we're making it just a couple clicks and they can be done with it and move on, hopefully they're taking advantage of that. You get those expenses in that much quicker. You avoid that month-end rush and then scrambling around for receipts and trying to recall what money was spent for what and all of that. We have an integration with Google Maps as well to capture mileages. I'll show you that very quickly. With corporate credit cards, oh my gosh, such an impressive design that we have with corporate credit cards. If you're handling these manually now, I know what a pain it is, and we have taken practically all of it away. We establish, or I should say, have the ability to establish, and you'll establish with your bank, an automatic feed. So when that corporate credit card is used, a charge comes across from the bank into Business Central. So it's all right there. It's pushed out to the user who used the card to attach the receipt. It's run through BC, and then it's collected, of course. And at the end of the month, when you get that corporate credit card statement, guess what? No more manual reconciliation. It will import that statement into BC, hit a button, and BC will automatically reconcile that statement for you. So matching up the lines and highlighting the outliers, it's a beautiful thing. For expense approvals, much the same process as you've already seen. You can do it in BC, of course, but we have that web approval portal. It's the same one. So if you have a manager doing both, easier for them. And of course, again, we're trying to make it as quick as possible to get those reimbursements processed. With that, let me pop over to expense management, and we're going to start with submitting an expense. That's a good place to start. And I'll just show you click wrong link. There we go. So this is our phone app, and again, if we can make it as intuitive and fast as possible, that's going to help with submission compliance and deadlines and the quality of the information and all these things. And so, again, you have a lot of flexibility. Basically, anything that you see here, you have the ability to configure within Business Central and push those updates out. So you want to add a dimension to part of the expense capture process. It takes about a minute roughly to do that. It's really amazing how flexible this is. Let's just click New Expense. And guess what? I just bought a coffee and I want to charge it in. I'm going to go grab a receipt that I have saved, or I could actually take the picture right then and there. So either or, whatever works. The OCR engine runs against that receipt, picks up the amount and the currency, the date, and the description. And then on top of that, as I do more in the app, artificial intelligence will kick in and detect coding patterns. And so when it sees that I've purchased from this vendor before, it will look to what were your payment types before, what was your expense type, and pretty quickly they won't have to enter anything. They grab the receipt and they're done. For now, I do need to say, oh yeah, I used a private card and this was for food. And then I'm done. All the required fields are filled out. And again, what shows here, what these options are, what's required, all of that configurable by you completely. But I'm done. I'm going to submit that expense. And even if I had to add a couple of things like that, what was that, 5 clicks or something like that. So the expense is submitted. I come back to Business Central. You're going to have a synchronization that runs on a job schedule, so on a regular basis. I don't have that set up in our demo environment, of course. So I run that to bring those expenses across. And again, all stored inside BC. We have one new expense was imported, and here we go. And you can see here it is. And guess what? As you would expect, the receipt is attached. I can open this up. Once again, finance can make any changes they need to. It has been sent out, and according to the hierarchy, it's gone to the marketing team to take a look at. They're going to review it in the web approval portal, do have the same actions as before, and once it's approved, they can post it. I have some other charges sitting here, but you can see these are MasterCard, right? So they're corporate credit card charges, and they're already sitting here. I have a little notification, and oh, okay, so I've used the card, and they're sitting here for me to attach a receipt to. Well, all this information has come across with the feed, so I go attach the receipt. AI says, I think that's the receipt that you want. Yep, that's it. Fantastic. Anything else? No, good to go. Submit it. Just that easy. I do have some other options here. Let me go ahead and take care of the next one. Of course, I can add comments. I can even split this receipt up if I have more time. I'd actually do this, but I can split this across expense types or other categories and amounts, etc., maybe different dimensions and so forth. I don't have a dimension showing here, but again, could add that, and it would take about a minute to do that. So all very straightforward and very intuitive. I can check on the expenses I've submitted and what their status is. And then, as mentioned, we have an integration with Google Maps. So let me put in a couple addresses here. And whoops. I understood my misspelling. And like Google does, it gives you a couple different routes, and I can select the one that I want or that I took. Yep, that's good. Okay, so that was 6 miles. Good. And I can put in my description. And then when it's sent back to Business Central, it will look to the mileage rate tables you have inside Business Central and do the calculation. Pretty straightforward. We'll just do a one-way trip and off we go. As mentioned, we can do expense reports as well, but in the interest of time, I will go ahead and skip that. That's pretty much expense management. Like I said, trying to keep it as simple as possible. You can track everything that's happening along the way. The managers will get automated reminders for approvals, and let's see. Yes, I think that's it. So let me go ahead and flip back to our slides, and I wanted to go back to our third pillar of recommended approaches in terms of adapting and embracing financial transformation for your organization, and talk about equipping your team. And as I mentioned before, it really is changing perspectives and really changing kind of the outlook and the direction of your team from that reactive and control-oriented kind of mentality to really embracing change, looking for opportunities, and really changing a lot of what they do. Put together basically this flywheel of components to check on. Let me highlight just a couple things as we're moving through here, but I will send over this PowerPoint to Caitlin so she can distribute it out to you, and you can have this for a reference as you would like to put together a plan in terms of how you're going to move forward. But I wanted to give you the components that I feel are important in terms of having the team open to change and really embracing that new direction, and the components that need to be there, and then some questions to ask yourself, some questions to ask the team. And honestly, I think it's a great place to start. Just kind of sit down and talk to them about where they're at, where their heads are at, what have they heard, what are they thinking about when they hear about financial transformation and artificial intelligence and the evolving role of finance in the team. Excuse me one second. Okay, was losing my voice there. I'm good. So a couple things to check on. First and foremost, not a surprise to anybody, right? There needs to be a clear business case. We're not just going to change for change's sake or because we think we need to or we must have to, right? What are we trying to achieve? If you want everybody to work towards the same goal, you got to understand what that goal is. That's really what it comes down to. So I think that's not news to anybody. It's often easily overlooked. And honestly, a lot of times I've seen where it's overstated, right? You don't need a big project charter and 20 pages to describe what you're trying to achieve. If it can't be done in a couple sentences, it's probably not clear enough, and it's going to be hard to get everybody on the same page. But yes, understand why you're trying to make a change and where is everybody trying to get to. Very closely behind that, of course, as always, executive commitment. The managers have to walk the talk, right? And you all know what this means and what this looks like, and everybody's been a part of a team at some point where you've seen the incongruency there and what it does to the team, right? And so again, can't just issue an edict and then expect everybody to follow. Really does have to be a team effort, and got to see the visibility and involvement from the management. History plays so much part in this, and you have to have an honest discussion with the team about what historically what has happened with the organization and what perspectives are already built in, and do you need to address that before you get going. Those things stick around for a long time. Is the team operating as a team, basically, right? Certainly they have to have the shared goal, but then they have to be working together. And that's both art and science, right? And so a lot to go through on that we don't have time for. But the team has to be operating as a team and want to be operating as a team. And again, history plays a big part on that. The culture of the organization and culture of the team. Do you have a culture where new ideas are embraced and you get to try and make mistakes and things like that, or not? Do you have a culture that celebrates new ideas, right, and shares those new ideas, or not, right? You really have to take a hard look. What are the cultural elements that people are working within? And are they congruent with this kind of effort? When you're talking about financial transformation, again, big change, and there's going to be mistakes and so forth. And so is that all going to line up? Organization design alignment. This is about, how do I like to put this? This is about what people do, whereas competency and capacity is, do they have the capabilities to do it? And so, again, if you're asking one person to investigate some new technologies, are they wired that way? Do they like to do those things? Are other people going to be a little envious of that, right? You have to consider some of these factors. And certainly with competency and capacity, if people are already too busy or you've been suffering from a lot of turnover, coming at them with such a new direction and a complete switch like this could really be upsetting. And so again, have to have some honest conversations and honest evaluation. Where is the team, and are they ready to embrace this kind of change? And then we have reinforcement systems, and I think this often easily gets overlooked. Again, you're going to make mistakes. You want to celebrate the wins. You want to learn from the losses or the mistakes, and you, again, have to have the culture that supports all of that. And so the team will see through very quickly when you're trying to get them to embrace some new technology, but then yelling at them for being a day late on closing the books, right? It's those kind of inconsistencies that are going to tank an effort pretty fast. And so you have to take the holistic approach there and make sure that people are all feeling positive about that new direction. Okay, a lot covered in a very, very few minutes there. Hopefully you're a little bit excited in terms of opportunities and have a little bit of direction that you can sit down with your Sabre Limited team and talk to them about next steps and some good ideas to start experimenting. There is my contact information and my LinkedIn QR code. And I am just amazed that we actually have a couple minutes for questions. And so I'm eager to see if we have any. Caitlin, what are we looking at there?
All right. Well, thank you, Mark. That was awesome. If anybody has any questions, now would be the time to unmute yourself, or you can enter your questions into the chat. We'll just take a second here to see if anybody wants to ask a few questions. Looks like we have a question here. Does the expense reporting system connect with projects?
Oh, great question. Yes, yes, it does. And so, just like I mentioned, it takes a minute to add basically any field from Business Central. I mentioned departments and dimensions. You can absolutely add, well, I guess they're called projects now, right? The project number and the project task numbers. You can expose those fields as part of that expense entry, and they can select from that list, and you can actually even restrict what ones they get to choose from. So if you have folks that are only on certain projects, they only will see the ones that are relevant to them. Great question.
We have another question here. How do we get trial of the credit card / expense reporting? Is this arranged by Sabre?
Fantastic question. Yes. Okay. So there's a couple answers there. Yes, you can absolutely talk to your Sabre team about arranging a trial. We have a 30-day trial available. Now, the better bet is to actually install the application into your sandbox. And when it's installed in a sandbox, and again, Sabre can do this for you, we do not measure usage, so you don't even really need a trial period. It's only in a production environment where we're going to watch that, and that trial really matters. In a sandbox, you play with it all you want, and we don't care. Another option is the demo environment I just ran through is already pre-configured, right? And so just like I did, very easy for you to add in receipts or add in documents and so forth. And your Sabre team has access to our portal where our demo environments live. They can spin up a demo environment for you, provide you the login, and you can go to town immediately. It's already set up for you.
That's awesome. And again, feel free to unmute yourself if you would rather ask your questions straight up. But it looks like we have some more people typing here.
Okay. And Caitlin, I do apologize. I do have to stop in 3 minutes. So if there's any remaining questions, I'm certainly can address those offline.
Yes, of course. And we can always send out your contact information for everybody after the webinar is finished as well. It looks like we have one more here. Could you implement automating your accounts payable without the expense management functionality?
Yes, those are separate solutions. And so you pick which you'd like to use. Definitely.
Awesome. And I think we have time for one more question if anybody has anything left.
While somebody is typing, I will show our pricing very quickly. We do that.
Yes, and it looks like they're asking to know the pricing.
Super. We again, we want to save you time, so we believe in full transparency. Off our main website here, under resources, you can see we have our doc site, which is modeled after Microsoft for ease of use. This is our entire help documentation available to the public, so you can go through and read it. We even have our on-demand training, again, modeled after Microsoft and all available for free to the public. So you can drop in and start learning. And then pricing is, again, on our website. So very easy to use. We're just going to go ahead and select what we're interested in for the most part, right? Cloud. And you just kind of walk through the examples. We'll just do document capture. Now, document capture is volume-based pricing. How many invoices do you process a month? That's what we want you to pay for. Now, we walked through and talked about order matching, advanced capture, and document approval. We do have purchase contracts as well for tracking regular expenses. I'll go ahead and check that. And then you just enter in how many invoices do you process, and that's your price. And so we'll measure that on a monthly basis and invoice based on that, so you pay for exactly what you use. So that's a little over $1 an invoice, which is pretty efficient. For expense management, oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Expense management, super quick, slightly different, but same kind of concept. Again, paying for what you use. We talked about credit card transactions and mileage. And then it's based on the number of people that submit expenses. We'll just leave it at 20 for simplicity here. And that's $10 and change a user a month. Again, the more you use it, the cheaper it becomes on a per user or per document basis.
All right. Is that everything, Mark?
Yes, that is. And again, I can't thank everyone enough for listening to me go through all of this. Hopefully that was insightful and a little energizing for you. Happy to talk any specifics with anyone. And Caitlin, thank you again for all the tremendous coordination to make this happen.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mark. That was awesome. We'd like to thank everybody else for attending this webinar, of course. In the chat, you can find links to our social media, our website, and as well as a link to our Calendly where you can schedule a 30-minute discovery call with one of our experts at Sabre Limited if you have any questions for us. Otherwise, I hope you all have a great day, and we hope to see you again at one of our upcoming webinars.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Have a great day, everyone.